Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Dr. Psych Mom Show. Today, I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of starting your relationship as friends, which is something that probably, half my couples have started as friends and at different times in their lives. So some young, some older. Mostly, though, you do meet as friends when you are younger. And I will talk about how that impacts your later transition into a marriage, which of course has a romantic component and is not just a friendship, right? After I tell you to subscribe, my most recent subscriber episode was whether high libido women should withhold sex to make the man more romantic, which was a question that came up in my secret group, and y'all should join my secret group. It's great. And, first time I heard this, but it is, I hear all the time about men saying they should withhold romance to make their wives more sexual, e.g., stop hanging out with them so much, stop complimenting her so much, all that inspiring dread nonsense. All right, so, and of course you get over 150 other episodes if you subscribe. So anyway, when you start as friends, you have a couple of things are really good, right? You definitely respect each other. You definitely like spending time together, and you get along. You probably have a similar sense of humor. Otherwise, why would you be friends? And I'm talking about actual friends, not just in the friend group. I'm saying friends where you have, in college, high school, later, at work, whatever it is, you've actually enjoyed hanging out. And you yourselves choose to hang out with each other over other people. And then you could say, but then why aren't you together? Well, usually the woman is not attracted to the man yet. And that isn't always a death blow, by the way. But she just doesn't think about him like that. Usually he thinks about her like that. Usually a man knows that he would sleep with a woman instantly upon seeing her. Would he sleep with her or not? He knows. A woman needs more info. A guy could be cute, but, if it's not your boyfriend, then you just don't really think about it the same way. I've talked about this with married monogamy and how their sex drive just goes down. Well, it happens when you're young, too. If you have a boyfriend, you just kind of don't think really about other guys. It's unless you're unhappy with the boyfriend. So sometimes you are unhappy with the boyfriend. You start confiding in this friend, and then you realize he would be a better boyfriend, and that's like how some relationships start. Now, the guy usually knows if he's attracted to the woman or not. The easiest case to explain, so I'll do it first. The quickest is the man was not attracted to his female friend, but over time he thinks she's a good person and he should marry her. And why would somebody do that? Not to be an asshole, but as I've said so many times, if you were raised in a dysfunctional home, then you think that love and friendship within marriage is a fairy tale. And, what you're really looking for is a partner who you could raise kids with. So men do also, quote, settle for women who they're not attracted to. Not as often, because physical attraction is much more obvious and much more important for men, but they do it. And they often do it in these kind of situations where she's like a good person. He's always really liked her. She would be a great mom. He's just never had that super big attraction to her. Although men have a wide range of people they would sleep with. So usually he would sleep with her, but kind of that's not saying much in a way, because men have much larger range. But he doesn't think that she's super hot. But he marries her because she's a good person. Now, sometimes that ends up biting that man in the ass and the woman, of course, because he realizes he kind of isn't attracted to her at all anymore after the honeymoon stage, really. And then he doesn't want to have sex with her, basically, ever. She's hurt and all of that. And that, again, including, and now, of course, women do the same thing. Nobody is being malicious here. You're doing it because you feel like this is a good person. That's how you're trained for your whole life is don't be shallow. Don't just look at looks and attraction. Look at the person you really want to be with for your whole life. Do you respect them? Will they be a good parent? Will they take care of you when you're sick and old? If yes, then don't be shallow. Everybody gets that same message. So women, it's even more appealing to them, right? Because women aren't as driven by attraction, just like they're looking for other things. Evolutionarily, you need a partner who is stable, who will provide. If you are with the baby for, if you are pregnant and then nursing and then raising a baby, there's a while there where you're not probably on your A game at work, and you need somebody who's going to hold down a job. And otherwise, you and your baby don't survive. So there's like a biological imperative to be with somebody who can remain employed, And so if somebody is stable and if they are a good guy, then you just picture them as a good dad. And so what happens is that one or both of these people, and then sometimes, of course, so that's a situation where somebody isn't attracted to somebody. That's a bad situation. Then there's a situation where both of you were just dating other people, and so you never really got together at the right time. And you were never single at the same time. And then when you become single at the same time, fairly immediately, you start dating and it turns into something romantic. And this is especially good and works out well if both of you kind of were a little bit interested in the other, but it was just, I have a boyfriend/girlfriend, so we can't get together. I wonder what it would be like if we could. And then finally you do. So more like Jim and Pam, right? From The Office. Pam had a boyfriend, but she was always really into Jim as a friend, and he was in love with her. So obviously that's like the idealized situation of all of it. And if I watched more TV or remembered more TV, I could come up with other examples, but I can't. Oh, how about My So-Called Life with Brian and Angela? He was always in love with her, right? She never thought about him like that, but then at the end, she started to because he was so romantic. Now, in that situation, would she always have kind of felt that she settled for him? Who knows? But, sometimes it works out, right? So so that's the attraction piece. And as I've said, it can go either way based on kind of if you were sort of attracted to each other or if you just kind of weren't really at all. And then you are predicating the marriage on just a mutual respect. Which sometimes doesn't work. After the honeymoon stage, the attraction is not there. The other issue, the big issue with a friendship is sometimes the romance part is awkward. Like you could be really physically think that each other is really attractive, just physically. But the friend vibe persists and it's hard to transition into a romantic/sexual vibe. So it's kind of feels almost like awkward or weird or fake. These are words that people use in my practice, and it doesn't feel that this was ever really a romantic partner. You almost can't be yourself. Sexually, after the honeymoon stage recedes, it kind of doesn't feel natural in a sense to be with this person. It's always more of a jokey friend vibe. That jokiness is really great to have the same sense of humor as your romantic partner. And I have podcasts about how important that is, and it is. But if that's the only vibe, if it's only kind of joking, a kind of ironic, sarcastic, joking kind of vibe, that's not good. Then there's no sincerity. It doesn't really transition into something that feels more naturally romantic. And that feels like a real loss, because you see that other people, cuddle up together and may have pet names and they're like, stroking each other's hair. And like, you feel like that would be so weird in your relationship because mostly you are still friends. You find the person attractive. You can even have sex, right? But it's just that romantic piece that kind of isn't there and feels a little bit forced. Now, there's also the fact that when you were friends, you guys told each other a lot of stuff that maybe you wouldn't have said if you were dating, right? And I talk about that you should talk about exes and everything, and that's healthy, but when you're friends first, then a lot of people were getting like the play-by-play of every single thing this person was doing in their relationship. And that's not always good, for later on, because you then always can compare them. It was like you were going through that relationship with them because you were their friend and you were hearing a lot of stuff. So there's guys that heard from a female friend that, maybe they were secretly in love with at the time, about all the wild sex things she was doing with her then boyfriend. Well, then it's difficult not to compare it later on when you become her husband, when you become her boyfriend, to, compare it to all these things that you knew all about as they were happening, which is not like getting a summary later on. And I do feel that the summary later on is useful. People should definitely be aware of one another, but there's kind of a difference when you were kind of going through it with them. Especially if you're somebody who's preoccupied attachment or insecure, then you're always going to be comparing. And I even have a podcast on retroactive jealousy. And That's going to be next. I'm going to record that one next. That's when you get jealous of your partners, old partners. But anyway, so that can manifest more, especially if you were seeing relationships happen because you were their friend as they were literally happening. Now, another thing that can happen is that, when you do feel like friends still, sometimes you can end up having crushes as you're a married person on more romantic, partners, like on people that you're more attracted to on a base level, on a lust level. Because there's this idea that, yes, you have this person who's basically your best friend and they always were, but you didn't have the experience with that person of just meeting them and falling right into bed with them. So that is kind of an experience that people then yearn for. If they never had it, is like that just fling or that one night stand or falling into bed with somebody because you're so attracted to them versus because you've built this long, stable thing. Now, on the other hand, what are all of the benefits of meeting as friends for people? There are people that don't have any of these issues. There's people that honestly, they always had a little crush on each other when they were friends. It feels wonderful and like it was meant to be when they get together. There's a wonderful honeymoon stage where they do all the romantic little things that they always wish that they could do. And there's some people who are friends, by the way, but they're not really friends. They're kind of like, it's almost like they're emotional affair partners. Even when they were having other boyfriends and girlfriends, they were always saying, I love you to each other in a sense, love ya. And it really, it was really kind of almost another boyfriend, girlfriend. That's kind of the best people that transition into marriage. When it was never only friendship, it was more of like a flirtatious friendship or a friendship where both of them kind of felt the other one was pretty attractive. And thought, if they weren't with so-and-so, whatever, or if we lived in the same place or whatever it is. So those people, they transition into a romantic relationship and it's everything. It's the best of both worlds. Nothing is perfect and they could still have all of the problems come up later on that other couples have, but they feel like they were friends and lovers right from the beginning. And so there's a basic level of trust. They feel like they really know the person. The person even knows their family a lot of the time. And of course, they're friends because they were friends. And they are just compatible on so many domains because they were friends first. That is kind of the best case scenario. And a lot of those people are better able to weather the transitions of, for example, the honeymoon stage receding or sex drive changing or kids or whatever, because they really do feel close. These are the people that feel like they have their person and they have that proven on multiple different levels because there was this extended time where they were just choosing to be together to spend time together because they just liked each other's personalities, and so that deep liking. So there's three aspects of love that I could talk about on an upcoming podcast. It's Sternberg's theory of love. And there's liking, passion, and commitment. And so consummate love has all of them. And so if you have that deep liking, who could have more liking than people who started out as friends, right? I mean, damn, you like each other. So that part is there. So the point being here that if you start out as friends, it really does go better if there was always some underneath level of attraction. Sometimes women will not let that even happen because they're too committed to whoever they're with at the time. And in that case, though, retrospectively, they can usually say something like, yeah, I did always think that he was kind of cute, but I had a boyfriend. Now, if they never thought he was kind of cute, but then, cute, but, not cute, but, then, it's probably, there's potentially more problems down the line in the arena of physical compatibility and sexual compatibility. Also, if it basically started to get awkward and jokey and ironic in the romantic sphere, as soon as it transitioned from friends, then that is kind of difficult because then it never fully drops into the romantic bucket. It kind of more stays in the friend bucket. And ideally, it would be both because you don't want people to feel like they're really missing out on some big aspect of life, which is kind of how people do feel when it never fully drops into the next bucket of romance. So, if this is something you you have, if you are in the bucket of like, we were friends and then we transitioned, and I really do feel like this is the only person that I could ever be with, and my life is wonderful, then this would be a wonderful podcast to share, with your partner. It might be a bit unfortunate to share it with somebody if you suffer from the problems in the friend transition, and that would be something more to discuss in individual therapy. Because, maybe it was you. Maybe you don't let it fully move over. Maybe you kept them in the bucket of friendship and you didn't fully move over into romance. Maybe, and this is actually, worth the price of admission alone, but maybe you have problems with vulnerability. Maybe you have problems with intimacy and trust. So kind of the closest you can be to anybody is a friend. And then when somebody tries to get in with you sexually or physically, that's a bridge too far. Now, why would this happen? Because in your family of origin, you did not see a lot of positivity around romantic relationships. Romantic relationships sucked. So basically, you trust friendships and you don't trust romantic relationships. And if that's the case, then you may be subconsciously sabotaging the full transition from friend into romantic partner, even like 10 years down the road. So that's something to think about as well. It's not always about attraction, because you could be really attracted to somebody, and after the honeymoon stage is over, that just means that you look at them like a decorative object. Oh yes, my husband is handsome, but it doesn't mean that, you're able to fully morph into something romantic. And this is the most for avoidant people, obviously. So men are more frequently avoidant, and women are avoidant as well. And I have an avoidant husbands podcast and avoidant wives podcast. Those people kind of keep things in the friend zone, even with their spouse. That's kind of their ideal, almost, is friends. And for men, friends that fuck. And for women, friends that friends. That's it. And that is usually because you have difficulty with intimacy. From what you saw growing up, intimacy was very dangerous and risky, and relationships didn't really work out. And were fraught with lack of trust or dysfunction or, other ruptures. So it's something to really think about if you almost keep your spouse at arm's length and everybody, you have lots of friends, and you're really great at being a friend, but you're not really good at being a romantic partner because of the second layer of intimacy that has to open up. And I don't just mean sex. I mean physical closeness and emotional intimacy and vulnerability. All right. Hope you guys found this interesting, and I will talk to y'all soon. Have a great day, guys.